The story began in the dark room when the girl was asked to save everyone, which she only looked at the blanket indifferently. She was pressed hard on all sides. All relatives, even her mother, told her to sacrifice her life for them. Everyone accused her of not wanting to fulfill her duty. The girl is tired. The mother barely released a tear, saying that she was not easy to lose her daughter, whom she grew so much, and said that so her daughter could pay them for all good. The girl just smiled at it because she did not believe that her mother's love was hiding in leaving a small baby in a cold room. She then called them all shameless. However, it was in the order of things for her because it was not the first. Again, she smiled her relatives and assured that she would save them because no one but her could. She has already lived 99 different lives, and as these lives have accumulated, and its strength also accumulated, the salvation of the whole world was not such a great deal for her. She did not regret anything, but now she did not want to see the benefits of these shameless people before her. After her consent, everyone stood silently. The father broke his silence and began to give his daughter, but the girl did not even pay attention to him. Without heeding a word, the girl started to pay a considerable price for her work. However, she did not want to leave so easily and eventually said her relatives that her pathetic life would remain with them. The father did not immediately realize that his daughter was referring to him until a newspaper was written in his hands, where a rather criticizing article was written that a girl was handed in his family. The man did not have time to get rid of as a servant rod into the room and reported that the emperor's troops were already bursting into their mansion in order to check whether the article is true. In the meantime, the girl had already flew through the window when her father rushed to her and began to demand that she would return back to avoid a cliff for the family. She inadvertently remembered her first life, which was not something better than the present, because in the first life the girl had to live with her brother in the full indifference of her parents. However, although she was not beloved, she still liked her people, and since she was straightforward, her parents were straight. Her attachment immediately caught her eyes. And most of all, she was close to her friends. One day she saved their lives by sacrificing her. So the girl first said goodbye to her life. However, it was her choice then, but in the next life she was in the world on the verge of extinction, and the only chance to save him was to sacrifice her life. She gave her first life for her friends. The next person was screaming to her that she was her duty to give her life for their salvation. For 6 times she hoped that she would still have a happy life. But here is 99 and everything has changed. Now she did not even regret to regret, but it was more difficult to see the destruction of the world, especially when the moment was lost. When the girl looked at the people below, having such a great power, she thought everything they would accuse her of not saving them. Seeing innocent children, she realized that whatever he could be, but did not want to see the tragedy. Raising her eyes to heaven, she suddenly realized that she could not live up to 20 in this life. Calculating that she lived on average for all 17 years, the girl only asked for everything to end quickly, then lifted the staff from which the bright light poured. After her 99 death, she opened her eyes. She saw some women who ran around. Someone spoke to Miss Greetings with her daughter's birth. Hearing this baby could not believe that she had a living. She hoped that everything would end in the past. Nevertheless, she decided to take her hands and began to look at what they were doing around, but she still saw badly. The girl realized that she would need to adapt. Others just smiled, admiring the girl, but the newborn herself began to panic a little because she could not use her strength on the first day. In a moment, the door to the room opened sharply. The maids immediately turned to him that he had a daughter. The girl herself also tried to see the person who addressed the servant, realizing that she was probably her father, but having considered the face of her husband, she thought that this life would collapse. When a man began to reach out to her hand, she wondered what time he would be unjustified about her. She was interested in it, or this time. When the world is on the verge of destruction, it will not be able to do anything to, and will only look at how the world is in chaos. She was afraid that she would have to look at the people of people again. The girl realized that everything would be like a terrible dream again, which she had to oversee until the world perish. She would like to interrupt everything herself. The infant expected anything, but it was not the head to the fact that the father would easily touch her cheeks. He smiled with warmth and only thanked the fact that the girl was born safely. She was shocked from such a reaction and did not understand what happened. Then she quickly turned her look at her mother and noticed that she also smiled widely with tears in her eyes. The girl stopped understanding why her parents have such happy facial expressions. And although she did not understand anything, she still thought that if everything was really good in this house, then she would probably be able to live a peaceful life this time. The girl looked at her parents about something lively, and in a moment her mother touched her head and said that she would be called Anastasia from now on. She immediately liked the new name. She suggested the name of the heroine who saved their world. However, she sharply realized that as soon as the name of the heroine was mentioned, her own life was like a waste ditch. The girl no longer paid attention to the face of her parents, who smiled at her because she understood. What naively thought that this time everything would be different, but now she was sure that she would have to save the world again. While the father was lightly swaying the newborn, the older daughter was quietly looking behind them. From her birthday, a month has passed, and nothing surprisingly happened during this time. Lying in the crib, she thought that she was ready for a heroic name. This is the case in the past life. Then her father told her that a child with a heroic name is blessed by God. However, she knew that then her father only pretended to be good. However, then he began to mock her because she was scared of her strength. He wanted to check how defenseless she was against his parents. She was now convinced that she was given a heroic name to accurately sacrifice in the future. Anastasia realized that there was nothing left but alert. She did everything to find more about the surrounding ones. A woman with black hair and red eyes is her mother. The girl knew that as soon as she began to sway her, she immediately fell asleep, and therefore thought that she had to be careful with her. She gave her father somewhat wolf appearance and growth as a whole mountain. The girl drew attention that he spoke with her a strange voice and suggested that it could be some psychological pressure. She also saw that someone was constantly near the cradle, so she thought that she was followed. Closing the point, began to think who was this time, and thought that to be an aristocracy even worse. Suddenly, some noise was heard behind the door, and she immediately paid attention to it. She immediately sensed her father's voice and saw a stranger next to him. 2 men talked about her. My father began to be angry with the doctor why his youngest daughter did not cry or laugh, if no sick. Anastasia was surprised. The man was angry more and without waiting for any answer to the doctor, so he was ready to cut his head. The girl could not believe that her father could easily get rid of someone's life only because she did not cry. In the past, parents do not love to hear her cry, so she did not let her tease be killed. She decided to not pay attention to this baby because her life was more expensive. Meanwhile, the doctor barely stood on his feet with fear and assured the master that he had carefully checked everything and the baby was healthy. She heard the frightened voice of the doctor well and realized that her father made her feel guilty. In the end, the girl surrendered, and to show that everything was well, wept with her. The gentleman was immediately distracted from the doctor and rushed to his daughter's room. After picking up the girl in his arms, he began to tell joyfully what she had a ringing voice. Anastasia was amazed at the surprise that her father was happy about her crying, because before that, her tears were caused only by annoyance in the surrounding ones. She could not in any way understand why her father had such a happy face. The girl realized that she had to be careful, but could not stop crying and barely calm down only in her father's arms. Another girl came to the room loudly. She was angry because her father dared to leave her. "Stop crying!" Anastasia turned her head and looked at the pink-haired girl and immediately thought that she was probably her older sister. Since she was sounded younger, the girl suspected that she could have brothers or sisters, but she was still not met with them, and now she was more worried than rejoiced. In the past, because of its peculiarities, all the attention was reached. She has never been a baby. Anastasia realized that she should not be succumbed to her sister cheeks, but did not expect that she was a smile in a moment when she saw the younger. The eldest sister immediately rushed to them that she had so sweet and called her Asao that she told her father that they wanted to pud. The girl was amazed at such sweet behavior on the side of Larinia. She immediately began to wave the handles in her father's hands, showing that she did not like this idea. However, the relatives thought that the infant showed that she liked the scorched name Lara gave. However, his father told her eldest daughter that Anastasia was still very small and could not eat puddings, so he allowed the older to eat 2, 1 per sister. The eldest daughter denied it and explained that if the younger did not get pudding, then the baby would be upset, because when Lara herself was sick and could not eat sweet, she was very sad. Therefore, the girl raised pudding to her sister and said, what the younger wanted to taste at least a piece. Asya did not really want to try sweet, fearing that something was wrong with him. She began to ask her father mentally to do something. The man leaned to the baby, seeking her thoughts and leaving the older that the sister allows you to eat everything. Lara did not wait a long time and immediately gathered pudding. Instead, she stretched her sister with a deer toy. The father was amazed at this, because he knew that her eldest daughter could not sleep without this toy. but the girl smiling said that everything was fine, because as older, he should share with the younger. The younger daughter was recruited because she did not understand why everyone was so kind to her. The older thought that the sister did not like the deer and began to drink what she liked then. In order to cheer the younger Lara a little, she started playing with her, hiding her face in the palms of her palms and began to rush ridiculous expressions. Anastasia tried not to laugh, but her father and sister only admired her reaction. This younger realized that she began to lose vigilance. Rumors about how she smiled while playing with her sister quickly flew. After that, all the maids tried to squeeze strange facial expressions. Even the doctor and her father did something similar. Of course, the mother was banished after such, based on the fact that the kids needed to rest. The girl was very worried because before that, she had never met such enemies and did not understand why everyone tried so hard for her laughter. After sleeping, she opened her eyes. She immediately saw the boy. The girl already knew that he was her 5-year-old older brother. Despite his young age, he had already received training as an heir to the duchy. She did not understand why her brother came to her and was sure that she had to be more careful with her. Leaning to her, he asked what his sister thought. He said he brought his sister a gift. The girl was worried because she did not understand why everyone tried to give her something. It looked suspicious for her. In a moment, her brother lifted her toy tiger. The boy also said that his eldest sister advised him to root funny minds to laugh. However, Lara also spoke of his tiger. The boy was a little sad with him, because he spent all his childhood with this toy, but he decided to give him to his younger sister. Asya realized that for Demian it was not just a toy, and did not understand why he gave it. The boy, in turn, expected to see the smile of his sister. She still did not believe that her brother gave such a valuable thing to him for her smile. She also did not expect that everyone really wanted to see how she smiled. She looked at her brother and sister, who patiently stood near her cradle, waiting for a smile. She did not manage to understand what it was important to save the world. However, she still decided not to think about it now and really laughed. When the brother saw his laughing sister, he called everyone at once. For many lives, Anastasia was used to always be careful, but on this good day, she decided to believe at least once in a miracle. Although she has been disappointed many times, she will still try to hope that the people who are now around her will not turn away from her. The maids could not knock off the little lady while choosing her clothes for her, helping her dress. The mother also could not knock off her daughter, and immediately told the seller that they just tried, bought, and even the tailor would pay several times more. Asya was amazed. She still couldn't get used to everything. It all started a few weeks ago, on her 5th month of birth. Then the girl was finally able to see more than a cradle. Although she still crawled on the tummy, she was still able to explore several places. Also already a Gukala, she could even say a couple of words. Because of this, her relatives could not always understand what she wanted to say, because Asya could not pronounce the words clearly. She was still forced to admit that she was indeed a child, so if suddenly there was a danger, so he will not be able to escape, because all the forces went to crawl. Nevertheless, it was calm now, but the only thing she still did not rest is her family. They follow each of its motion. And while the father and older sister admired as Anastasia turned to the back, his mother and brother seriously considered it, believing that the baby is unusual. Because of this, the relatives decided to arrange the girl the first party in case of her turn on the back. The kid was quite surprised. Although this event concerned only relatives, but the girl could not understand why it was so large, scale. Each in turn handed the kid a gift for the holiday. She was also approached by maids and joyfully congratulated with a successful turn. Looking at Asya's servant, she knew that when such parties were held, the participants also kept the bonuses. But she could not get involved in any way because of such a banal movement of the baby arranged such a holiday. Here everything seemed unusual. She noticed that all relatives had unusual attachment, and the more they took care of her, the more she was worried. When the girl was brought out, then in a moment the whole sky shot down with salutes. The eldest brother and sister were extremely pleased with the performance. At this point, her mother smiled at her and wished her that Anastasia would grow up and healthy from that day. It was strange that her mother did not seek anything from her, only to be healthy. All this sounded innocent, that the girl unwittingly did not even understand what it meant. Waking up in the morning, the girl noticed. That was so noisy yesterday, and today some silence reigned. She climbed out of the crib and looked around, but there was no one nearby. After yesterday's celebration, a vacation began, but one still remained. Anastasia thought that the offices were not 20 once, and so much fell asleep, because she thought that children needed a dream to grow. The girl suggested that all this because of the great employment at the end of the year. Even the parents went early, which seemed that the house was empty. In the meantime, the brother struck over the books and the sister was getting sick, so she had to rest. However, this opportunity was the best for Asi to start learning to walk on their feet, and its first goal was to climb the chair standing in the room. The girl tried hard to reach the bottom to have something to grasp, but she did not have time to lift her handles as someone lifted her high and the girl was in her hands and another servant. The baby examined the servant but quickly realized that she saw that for the first time. The woman said to the baby that the lady ordered her to bring it, but the girl knew that mom was not at home. The girl also noted that the woman did not even awaken the service to report that she took away the baby. However, Asia had already passed through the similar, and all looked suspicious. Therefore, having no other choice, she wept loudly to attract attention. But the woman quickly closed her baby's baby with some shaking. The last thing that has been seen and heard the girl is a sinister smile of a stranger and the words that are caught on. After that, the child was given to someone, and the thief escaped through the forest in an unknown direction, holding Asyu in his hands. In the end, she woke up from strange sounds and rustles. Opening her eyes, she saw that someone was carrying, but she was not the strange lady. She looked around as she could and noticed her happiness that they were not so far from home. The girl realized that it was an abduction. Anastasia thought herself, which was careless because it was better to look at the surrounding, but quickly realized that it was better to rejoice that it was only a kidnapping. She knew that it could be worse if her relatives were killed. Then she would have to look again. However, the girl also realized that she is only half a year now, so she could hardly do something, but she hoped that she would at least be able to find out the destination where she was carried. Although it will be a little overlap, but it could still take advantage of the power of teleportation, but it did not rest the reason why it was stolen. She thought it could have been a thrust against the Duke or someone still learned of her strength. However, she thought that the risk was worth finding out and thinking about everything. That can handle everything in 3 days, but did not want the family to worry. She had already thought that through a dream to send her native message not to worry, but suddenly a sharp sound was heard and the arrow pierced the leg of the thief. The abductor fell barely holding back the voice of pain and tried to focus to see who approached him. The girl also tried to get rid of the blow and look. The boy stood in front of them, but the facial expression had a formidable. He pulled his sword and instructed him to the thief, saying that he had a meeting with his lady in his arms today. The thief was very surprised to see the Duke's son in front of him. The man gradually tried to move away from him. The thief tried to show that he was not afraid of anyone and tried to shout to the boy to get off the road. The girl could not look away from Blondin, which she first saw. The thief heard that the troops were already behind him. He quickly rose and tried to escape, but the son of the Duke ran after him, warning that if the thief did not want the battle, he had to give the lady. Instead, the enemy just began to speak quietly to fall behind him and began to say that he had his reasons for the abduction, but the boy did not want to listen and threateningly warned the child. Anastasia, in turn, could not help but admit that this boy was not tied because he held the sword correctly. She also noted that he could use magic. She also could not help but notice that the magic of the boy was so strong that she reached his sword. Suddenly, the son of the Duke went on the attack and almost left her and the thief. The girl realized that she would need to use protective magic now, otherwise she would be injured, but did not have time to think about how she was already in the boy's hands. He quickly began to look at her to assure that the baby was not injured. The girl, looking at him mentally, replied that everything was fine with her. Her gaze rushed outside the boy's back, and she noticed that the thief was getting off the ground and was ready to step. She mentally warned the boy. Although he had a good sword, he was still a child. However, there was nothing to do, and to protect them both, girls were forced to use magic and reject the enemy from them. The boy did not expect it and was surprised that he did nothing, but the enemy fell and then looked at the girl. Anastasia felt the lungs dacha something. She realized that it was necessary to be careful, the first than the use of magic in the baby's body. She was shaking it, and the boy thought she had frozen, so he quickly enlisted her into her cloak. Then the rest of the warriors quickly ran to them, and they have already seized the thief. Demian approached his sister and noticed that she squeezed, and her eyes did not open everything. He began to worry much. The thief tried to explain and apologize for the committed, but the girl's brother said to the girl, he said to him that he would go with them until his father returned to the palace. Through the dream of Anastasia heard someone's voices. Hardly opened her eyes, she just thought about how much time she slept. She immediately saw anxious parents. The Duke immediately ordered the doctor to call, and while he apologized to his daughter that he was not there, because he thought that His Majesty's order was more important, the girl was not offended because she knew it was. The girl knew that she really lost consciousness because she used too much strength to protect. The mother with her father bowed over the bed and continued to apologize. She was surprised, but not so much, because she saw how good these people were and did not want to lose them, so she wanted to grow more. As soon as she became a little better, her father with her mother took and put her on a chair, and in front of her a few knights bowed her knees in the oath to serve faithfully. Asya could not understand who these people were until her father said that he was her personal honor now. The girl could not come from it to her senses. After the abduction, the reason was too simple. The son of the service who worked had a lot of debts, and when they saw how much money parents spent it, they stole her. Fortunately, her brother's friend managed to warn the abduction. After that, as the girl of the kidnappers heard it was released, and they happened with several fractures, it was rumored that her parents were merciful. She could not understand why she was so much security because it was logical for a sister or brother, but not for a baby. The father leaned down and said that these knights swore allegiance to her. The Duke wanted her daughter to tell her soldiers something joyful. The girl looked at her father because a child could tell adult men in half a year. However, she noticed that even without her words, the knights were glad. Expanding, the girl thought that she could not understand them. However, she realized that the knights still expected something from her. Turning, Asya mumbled something incomprehensible. A month has passed since the oath. From that day, 2 knights guarded her room outside and 2 more from the inside. The girl did not leave attempts to reach the chair on her own and thought that it will be easier in the year. She also realized that the last theft was for the sake of money, but she was sure that it would not be the last. On the day of her abduction, Anastasia drew attention. That parents left the house with concerned faces. Usually they did not leave the extent together. Therefore, the girl suggested that there were many enemies in the Duke's family because there was no other reason to give children so much protection. Still trying to get up to try to use magic, but immediately changed her mind because she knew that the temperature could rise that her parents would make her worry. As she tried to get the chair heard behind a familiar voice, she noticed her brother, who revealed the arms. The girl immediately crawled to him. As soon Asa was in his arms, the boy immediately began to speak joyfully how quickly the sister began to crawl. When she looked at him, she noted that Demiana had a little different facial expression than usual. In a moment, the boy said that his friend, whom she had already met her, wanted to meet. Anastasia immediately remembered the fair-haired boy who saved her and showed a gesture that she wanted the meeting. The brother asked if she really wanted it, and she confirmed. The girl wanted to meet with him, realizing that she did not know the boy, but felt that they had already met. If you are often degenerated, you meet acquaintances in other worlds. Every human soul has its waves. Usually, having met with a friend in another world, she did not attach it to this. However, now she felt that this boy was not just familiar, because it was a strange feeling of sadness from him. She realized that she was a wonderful chance to find out who the son of the Duke really was. Demian noticed his sister's determination that Michael had already chased his sister. At this point, the boy's carriage just came to the palace of Anastasia. The boy was a little surprised that the time had passed so quickly, and he did not notice how they arrived, but the joy did not decrease. Before missing a friend to Sister Demian, he almost did the search and constantly warned his friend to be kind to the girl. The friend confirmed everything again and agreed with everything, and without waiting for a minute to open the door from the move, saying greeted with the Duchess. Michael immediately rushed to the girl with a smile and some surprise as much as the Duchess was small. Instead, she just looked carefully at him. The girl was convinced that she had remembered something, but she couldn't say. In 2,000 years, she met just a few such people. She did not have time to think of something else, then her brother pulled his friend and quarreled for a bad greeting, who was not. The brother did not want to handle his sister as a doll. He also stressed that she was the younger Duchess. His friend just started laughing, and Demian was a little indignant. Asya was looking at her brother that he was a little calmer, but she was glad to see that he was in line with his age. However, Michael understood that he had to introduce himself, so when he took her hand a little closer to the girl and said he was a glad meeting. He easily kissed her small pen in parallel, calling her name. Such a gesture was amazed by both Anastasia and her brother. Michael Leventis was the only heir to the Archduke. After their first meeting, the boy spent more than a crescent in them. Since Archduke was constantly engaged in political affairs, the boy decided to study with his childhood friend. Because of this, all the attention of the maids has been drawn to him lately. The girl was convinced that Michael was friends with her brother, but could not understand why he so often came to her. He immediately rushed to her and had a few chapels of cold water on her. Feeling a damp girl began to wipe, and the boy apologized, saying, "What was washed before the visit." Anastasia noticed that the boy spoke beautifully, and it didn't look like a 6-year-old boy. Immediately after that, the boy got a ruby and stretched it to the girl that if she smiled, then this stone would be her. From some moment, constant gifts began with the purpose of causing her smile. The maids a couple of days ago told him that he had to get closer to her to see her smile. From that day, Michael began to look carefully what she would like. He almost lit her gifts. The brother and sister only laughed at the boy's attempts and said that attempts were in vain, boasting that her sister had only smiled at them. Surrounding her brother and sister Michael, he constantly did for innocent provocations, which he made some jewelry. The baby immediately turned out to show that she was not interested, because she did not understand who at all gave little children such things. The girl began to worry because for some reason she began to grow slowly again, and no one forced her to hurry. She also noticed that she could not use magic currently. As she tried to reach her chair in the hood, they put a ruby, and the girl began to sway from his severity. Everyone was frightened, and at the last moment Michael managed to catch Anastasia until she hit. The ruby rolled out of her hood. The service immediately rushed to the little lady to check all right. The girl was shocked that she suddenly lost her balance and felt a complete failure. In his turn, Leventus began to apologize for his action before her and said what he put Reuben in the hood, but did not expect the girl to lose balance. Anastasia did not immediately understand what the boy meant and looked at him behind her back, which was the reason that she almost fell. The girl was only angered by this action, because she thought that the boy wanted to make her. She raised her hand and pointing to him, she said she could hate Michael. Everyone did not understand what a little duchess wanted to say, but for the boy there was no problem to recognize that the girl said she hated him. The girl turned away and began to say that she wanted to leave. The boy tried to apologize for the mistake, but did not want to leave the duchess's room. The maids also wondered how the duke's son managed to recognize the girl's sounds and make them in words to understand what she said. Anastasia also did not hide about herself that it was annoying, because even relatives could not recognize what she wanted to say and thought that when they learned about it, they would be upset. She did not want to upset her relatives, so she tried not to pay attention to Michael. The boy also offered his help to teach her to walk. The girl clearly showed that she did not need help, but when the boy said that it was not difficult and learned to walk at 6 months, she was not even able to stand. However, the boy's offer sounded attractive. He reached out to her, assuring that he could help learning to walk. When he smiled at her girl, a little answered without understanding why he had such a reaction. In addition, she noted that the boy was very similar to her brother. After inflating his cheeks, the girl still accepted the boy's offer, but thought that she did not because Michael was like a brother, and because she wanted to grow up more. When she took him by her hand, she noticed that the boy again had some strange facial expression she had not seen before. After a girl, the girl began to hurry. The boy laughed and immediately understood the hints of the Duchess and said that first it would help her get up and then move slowly. Easy pushed her boy was able to help the girl climb. Asia was greatly amazed that she had succeeded, and the maids were also surprised. The boy smiled and said that is promised to help her learn to stand. The girl was a little indignant, and without understanding how it succeeded. On this, he said that once she managed to get up, she would be able to walk. The girl wanted to stop him so that not everything was so, but when the boy pulled it, she left. Without restraining the joy, the girl smiled with rejoicing from her successes. But the joy did not last long, because at this moment the brother came to the room. The girl noticed that the brother was shocked and tried to release from Michael's hands, but the boy did not want to let her go and boasted in front of a friend that the Duchess had already walked. Damian quickly took his sister, angry that she had fallen before. The maids were blamed for his heads, but a friend said it was his fault. The girl's brother was angry even more and began to attack a friend that a sister could even hit her head. Not wanting to hear any more excuses, his brother threateningly spoke to a friend that he had forbade to see Anastasia from today. Michael tried to explain the reason again, but his brother did not want to listen to anything and shouted to the friend to get out of the room immediately because his sister could be injured. The boy lacked words to reply something. He sadly turned his head and said to a friend that he was good because he had a sister. Asia could not understand how everything came to it. She realized that it would be easier if these two were more like children, but saw that unlike their peers, they were like adults. She understood that in such a situation, an adult child did not know what to do. The girl did not want to leave the situation as it is, because it could get worse, and she had nothing left but to understand herself. In a situation with Demian, he always liked to read books with his younger sisters after class, and after his soothing head, everyone failed. When Lara's stomach began to grumble, everyone immediately realized that the time had come. It was the most beloved time of her brother. However, after his friend rescued his sister, these times for some reason began to disappear, which greatly upset the boy. In the situation with Michael, he had only a single member of the family, a grandfather who was constantly busy. So when he first saw the infant, he was surprised and did not know how to behave. To this day, he only did that he was constantly training on his sword. There were no bad wishes from the boy because he just didn't know anything. In her case, the girl realized that everything is because of her. On that day, he was so tired of her that she said only one word for the boy to go. However, when the boy recognized that the Duchess called him by the name before everyone, the girl immediately realized that it was the beginning of trouble. The fact that she called his name, not someone from his family, upset everyone, so the loved ones began to ask the girl to name them by name that she tried to do. Now even her first steps were with Michael, so she could not even imagine how much a brother was upset when she saw it. Asya realized that the whole situation happened because of her, so she had no other choice to correct everything, so she wept loudly. Everyone rushed to her at once, and the boys could not understand what was the matter. Through tears, she tried to say something, but Demian did not understand her, so he immediately turned to a friend. The second said that the girl did not like it and she was scared. The brother was shocked to hear and immediately began to apologize to his sister. The girl wanted to apologize not to her, but to make friends. She pulled her brother for a shirt and immediately pointed her handle on Michael. For a while, the boys looked at each other silently. In the end, the Duke's son first began to apologize. He also apologized to him. After starving a friend, he asked to teach him to treat the children, because he did not know how to do it. The girl's brother did not know what to repay and was very excited after the word said. His friend noticed it and quickly began to assure that the truth did not know how to behave with the little ones. The boy continued and said that as a friend said, he politely behaved with the little one. Hearing this, Asya realized that it was because of this that he did not catch her last time. At first, the girl's brother looked at the friend in surprise, but in a moment he smiled widely and promised to teach him to behave with the little ones. After that, they shook each other's hands, and Michael asked if he could come here. This time, Demian did not forbid and agreed what his friend was sincerely delighted. The girl, meanwhile, noted that these two were very similar to the noble knights from the picture. Suddenly, she began to feel that Vicky had awe and wanted to sleep. Before her eyes, everything broke up, and the last thing she heard it that the boys noticed how the girl began to fall asleep and wished her a good dream. After that, she fell into a dream. The girl heard the sound and opened her eyes. She began to look in a strange place, but realized that it was probably a dream because she had fallen asleep in her brother. Asya already wanted to make herself wake up as suddenly heard someone's voice, asking for salvation. She looked around quickly and saw some light stone that was rolled into the chain. Although she did not know that it was, her body automatically went in the direction of the stone. The girl tried to stop, but her subconscious was not obeyed. Anastasia did not know that it was before her, but she was sure that this thing could not be alive, however. She did not know that, in this case, before her. The voice of stone said he was the only one who understood the girl. The Duchess did not understand what the stone meant, but her hand involuntarily reached for an unfamiliar thing. The girl did not understand how it could understand her. Hardly reaching the stone, the girl felt that it had been reborn 200 times. When she finally touched the stone, that instantly broke up. Due to the bright glow, the girl could not immediately open her eyes to see who stood in front of her. When she opened her eyes, she saw someone wrapped in a white cloak, which was visible only half a face. In the end, the stranger again said that Anastasia does not forget that she is the only one who understands her. The stranger began to stretch her hands all, saying that the girl would not forget. But through these words, a little duchess began to hear someone else's voice. The unfamiliar creature also began to feel that their conversation was trying to cut them off. The girl in turn gradually emerged from sleep. Sharply opening her eyes, the first thing the girl saw at Michael, and behind him all her family. Relatives were of great concern. With tears in her eyes, her mother leaned to her and said that the heat did not fall for a week and it made them worry hard. The girl could not believe that she was unconscious all week. Lara started crying and asking that her sister was no longer ill. It would be better to get sick. Demian, in turn, said that both sisters were not ill. The Duke, in turn, hugged the children and said, "That will take away all the diseases of the children." Michael only looked at his family silently. In the end, the Duke approached him and thanked the boy for the salvation of his daughter. Leventus said it was the least he could do. However, the Duke did not want the boy to behave so modestly, because for all of them, this week was as if Hell and Michael even brought with him his family relic. The girl's parents were very scared of the doctor's words when they heard that someone had cursed, but thanks to the relic, the boy was able to save Asya, and his mother thanked him sincerely. Hearing this, girl realized that she had been debt to the boy twice. In addition, for so many degenerations, she thought that she had immunity to what happened, but someone was delaying her in a dream. That creature was proved to cross all its strength. She was forced to understand that the honeycomb would not be easy, although it was completely different that she began to forget about her fate. Anastasia wanted to grow up more to be able to use the power again and repay all the debts. Suddenly her mother called her, and the only desire of the woman was only to be healthy. Next month, she had no problem with sleep and was easy to fall asleep, but even the slight use of magic led to a high temperature. Fortunately, there was no guests in a dream. Time slowly floated, and she was 9 months old. The father opened his arms and expected the daughter to approach him. Asya kept preparing to approach the chair. Step by step, she began to approach, but at the last moment she gave rise and began to fall. But fortunately, her father was nearby and quickly caught her daughter. The man was in the 7th heaven with happiness when he saw his younger daughter on his own. Although Anastasia realized that only a couple of steps took, it was enough to make the rest to shine from admiration. Although she did not understand why so much admiration for only a couple of unsuccessful steps, but she also saw that it was great progress. The body grew and used magic easier. Looking at her relatives, she learned that there was a festival in April. She also learned Michael's schedule, which he visited their estate. Following her brother, she learned about the titles and the history of her family. Although she was a little concerned that she did not grow so fast as she wanted, but gathering her information, holding it in his hands, the Duke turned to his subjects and said that his daughter was able to walk on her own and asked whether the knights were training. The girl was surprised. Asya did not understand what to deal with each other, but the knights immediately exclaimed, "Whatever, they do not compare with the Duchess, but they also try hard." In the end, the Duke said that it was time to test the skills of knights, and that is what they will do at the April festival where they will hold the tournament. The girl couldn't believe what her father did the reason for the knights. Raising his daughter above his head, the Duke said that she will be the heroine of the festival. In the meantime, Lara was having fun jumping. The girl entered the sisters' room and immediately rushed to that arms. Taking Asya, the girl said that they will be together the main characters of the April festival. In preparation for the festival, the girl's mother reflected above the outfit for her younger daughter. There were different options for clothing. One of the maids asked what the first dress was in the lady. The woman thought and remembered that she was yellow in the flower. This service was said that you can wear a baby in such a dress. The service did not cease to assure that the daughter was almost an accurate copy of the lady. The woman could not deny anything, and even said that the man was also glad that her daughter was like her. This issue was resolved, and one of the maids suggested that the little lady would look like a chicken. The girl's mother also suggested that the daughter would be like a flower. Suddenly, the Kravchina voted and said they could combine 2 ideas together. The rest were somewhat surprised. Then the woman pointed to the rest of the style and said that her younger daughter had little outfits, and whether the dressmaker could make outfits from these styles. After her father announced the tournament for the cooking festival began more lively. Even knights began to train days and nights. The servants, however, were red from the thoughts of recognition and love, and everything was preparing embroidery for knights. The girl realized that it was a good time for everyone because it was spring. After a while, mid-April and the day of the festival competition, there was a morning before the competition, and little lady was just fed. But inadvertently the maid missed, and the other barely had time to reject the food so that she would not tidy his clothes. The servant began to cook the breadwinner. The girl did not even say anything about it, and was surprised why everyone was tense on this day, because nothing happened to her. Anastasia, with gestures and sounds, tried to calm the maid. The young girl immediately rushed to the girl, wondering who will be a partner of the young lady. The maid believed that the girl's partner would be her brother Demian. but Asya knew about her dishonesty and immediately assumed that her partner would be someone else. And in a moment, Michael was in the room. The boy knew that Lady did not like to be in his hands, but promised that he was preparing to date and invited the girl with him to the festival. In the end, the Duchess, the mother of the girl, announced the beginning of the competition, the winner of which will be given not only a cash remuneration, but also a good gift. Namely, another gift was that her 2 daughters personally had to hand over bouquets of flowers to the winner. It was at this point that Michael was taking it to the stadium on the hands of Asyu. The girl herself just thought that although the boy told that he was training to treat the children, but noticed that his skills to keep the baby had not improved, because she was uncomfortable. The knights were prepared for battle, and everyone wanted to get a bouquet personally from the hands of a little duchess. Meanwhile, the mother of the children told the children quietly to say a few words to support their knights. Demian and Lara did so. After the words of his older brother and sister, everyone looked at Anastasia. The girl did not know what to say, because she could only be aged. Michael assured that she would not worry and translate everything. The girl looked at the knights. She saw that they were eagerly waiting for the words of a little lady and realized that there was nothing to do, so she had murdered something, and the boy translated it that the knights would win. After that, she exhaled lightly, but Michael also voted and asked if the girl would tell him something too, because he would take part. The kid was very surprised. She did not understand that people were in their head, although she knew that the son of the Duke was quite skillful, but it was impossible to ignore the strength and endurance of the adult. In the end, she spoke to him with words and gestures, and the boy translated it as a request that he would not be injured. The boy laughed at that and dropping her to the ground that he should train to show the girl the strongest side of his side. The boy agreed to her conditions, but instead he wanted the girl to say steeply after his battle. Asya pretended not to understand him. The girl thought that Michael asked for it because she did not forget how she called her brother cool. And while she began to look at her father, because he was an organizer. Suddenly she noticed that her father was on the sides of the arena. The man raised his hand high and said to his daughters, which would definitely receive bouquets from them. The girl could not believe it because her father looked as if an adult among the competition of children. While the Duke tried hard to draw the attention of the children, his wife did not even know what to deny it. Asya thought that her father did not look cool in front of his family. However, Lara supported her father and shouted from her place that he was cool. These words were even stronger. However, the girl, comfortable in her brother, thought that the competition should be interesting. Judging by the reaction of the knights to the father and his attitude towards them, those are confident in his abilities. They finally submitted a sign before the competition. The first, of course, was the Duke, and the enemy was one of his knights. Asya drew attention to her father and noticed that during the battle his father became another person. The face of the man became very serious, and the girl even from the podium felt tension. This tension was also felt by the Duke's opponent, and the guy was even scared. He barely repelled the Duke's attack, and the gentleman told him that he would focus because there was no one else around. Watching the battle, the little Duchess knew that it was not important whether it was a competition or training, but the knight could not even touch her father's sword. In a moment, the battle was completed by the victory of the Duke. The guy was forced to admit defeat. The next minute, the Duke returned to the podium where his children sat and started to cheerfully waving his hands, asking for children, or he looked cool. The girl thought that if he hadn't told it then. In the next round, Michael performed, and his opponent was a 10-year-old knight. Perhaps because of the age difference, the son of the Duke quickly approached the enemy and knocked his sword. From the very beginning of the battle, the boy used the moment to knock the sword out of the enemy's hands and thus won the battle. Asya saw that the boy enjoyed the benefits of height. But fortunately or not, the next round of a little warrior was against her father. However, as the girl expected, his father was very calm. However, his children still supported their father from the podium. And yet the girl realized that Michael would not be able to overcome her father, though she saw that he did not lose the pace by attacking the Duke. The little Duchess saw that even at such a young age, the boy had a very good sword and had considerable will to win. She was convinced that a 10 boy would reach her father in 10 years. 20 years later, she was convinced that he would be the best of the knights, but realized that she would not be given to her. She knew that she did not live more than 20 years, so she stopped taking her students because she could never see how they went to a new level, or her students betrayed her. 8 out of 10 students were traitors. One died early and the other was late. Looking at the battle of 2 people, The girl just appreciated them, but suddenly thought that she may also like to leave something after herself. Suddenly, his brother cast a voice and asked whether Michael liked her sister so much. The girl was amazed why her brother thought about it. The brother wondered that if he had performed or sister would consider him the same cool, the girl assured. That brother is better. Noticing her brother's smile on her again, a strange feeling. She thought for the first time in a loving family. What is enough for her? But there was a feeling that this time I want to stay with them longer. However, when she met a strange baby in her sleep, the feelings that so carefully hid began to come out. At first she wanted to find out who the baby was. The round was finally completed, although Levantine lost, but he still managed to make 2 blows. In the end, as everyone expected, her father became the winner of the competition. As another prize was announced, it was the personal presentation of flowers to the winner's daughters of the Duke, and the sister, together with his brother, went to hand bouquets to his father. In praising his father, Lara immediately handed him his bouquet. Anastasia also came up and attracted attention to a small bouquet. Without happiness from happiness, the Duke hugged all his children at once. The competition with considerable obstacles was completed safely by her father, who received a couple of light blows from his wife. Someone looked at the girl while looking at her relatives with a smile. The voice said that he had already sadly sad for his lady. After the competition, the Duke staged all feasts for all. This could not but cause praise from people. They noted that the Duke of this year was more fun than usually because of a younger daughter. One of the interlocutors said that it is worth enjoying this day because there will be a lot of work after the festival. The second suddenly asked whom the younger Duchess was more like. It was a great deal of other visitors to the institution, but no one wanted to insert their words about it and only looked away. Suddenly a guy came to the institution and a gentle door said that the Duchy family would pass by and who wanted to look. In a moment the establishment was devastated. 2 men who bred a discussion on whom the little Duchess was more similar to that they were now assured that the girl was very similar to her mother. After the martial arts competition, the father was satisfied with the peasants with meat and drinking. He even drove to a parade in a carriage without a roof. The Duke said that he could not miss the parade in which his favorite daughters were the main characters. Anastasia realized that it was a good reason, but knew that her father was just glad to win. She and her brother carefully tried to take off the screamed. However, looking at the joyful exclamations of people could not but fascinate with this, because the peasants did not hide their affection and loyalty to the Duke. She had never seen aristocrats so easily treated ordinary people. This festival was held to reduce the fatigue of the peasants. Under the same reason, they were handed food and happy smiles did not go out of the faces of people. The girl wondered how much time it has passed when she saw such a good leader last. The girl smiled at the idea that she probably did not meet such a good leader as her present father, even when she managed others. Suddenly, one of the knights approached her and stretched flowers. The guy pointed to the girl behind and said that the child wanted to convey a bouquet for a small duchess. Asya thought why the knight was here, because they were given a day off. Even her mother told the knight to rest, but the guy replied that a long rest could hurt. The girl could not but notice the truth of the knight's words, because when she was a warrior, he did not remember when she was able to rest. She did not think it was enough to be a simple defender. From past lives, the girl knew that as soon as you show your abilities, there will be an aristocrat or king who wants to keep you with you. However, she could not forget about those who did not want her to die, although in her opinion it was somewhat selfish. She remembered the princess who was very young and grumpy, but also very good. Anastasia recalled that before her death she put a lot of protective on that princess, and she became interested in whether the girl was able to grow well. It is strange that this is rarely mentioned by the past. However, she could not understand why she saw so many concerns about her death. The girl cut off his thoughts about it, because now she did not want to have any memories of past lives, but to enjoy what she now had and looked at a happy family. However, the girl has become very serious now and wanted to grow up faster to be able to use magic normally and call an assistant. With such a serious face, she went all the way. When they arrived, Michael began to fit again and asked everything why she was so serious. The boy tried to find out what to do that the girl would also consider him cool as a brother. Asya did not answer. Suddenly, he reached out to her jar and hired to help hold. And yet the boy wanted to hear from her that he was cool. For this, he even asked if she would say it if he wins the Duke. The girl thought, what if he had not said it would be cool? And yet everything was floating in the yard, and the end of May had already come, and the festival ended. The servant came to the lady and said it was late. The woman replied the servant to go to bed first, and she still wanted to fill the diary. There were many cases this month. The Duchess noted that the children were growing rapidly, so she wanted to record everything. The first thing that wrote this event for her older daughter's birthday. Then the woman recorded that after the first event, the younger daughter cut the first tooth. The servants worked the kids' gifts and looked at the hope, but the woman noticed that Asya looked worried. May 31st today, the woman was informed, that the younger daughter was finally able to climb on her own. She is sorry that she did not see it personally, but in honor of this, they staged a feast. Satisfied with the work of the Duchess, drank a soothing tea and thought. The younger daughter grew so quickly and wanted to happen a little more slowly. In the meantime, Anastasia pretended to fall asleep and waited a little attention to the fact that the maid, who had to look after her, fell asleep firmly. The girl did not expect that in honor of climbing on the chair, the relatives will arrange a feast again. Her baby's baby did not cease to surprise everything. However, looking again at the maid that's sleeping peacefully, she realized that the feast was only in her hand, and so she would not be able to call an assistant. After focusing the girl, she checked the water circle. The room was sharply illuminated, but it was quiet. In a moment, a dog jumped out through a small portal and rushed to the baby. Dog Chaco immediately began to bark and drink everything in the lady why and did not call him for 20 years. The girl covered her ears from his bark, realizing that the assistant was Mary. Anastasia had the ability to cause the objects she used in her past life. She met this dog in the 13th life when she was a demon. Most of his lives were a great source of information, but in the 99th life she was bored. 20 years the girl spent without gathering information because she just didn't need it. The assistant rushed to her head asking why the lady did not stroke him, because he would be glad, but the girl could not do it from such a perspective. When she stroked him, she thought, what despite the circumstances of the creation was really sad, and he was the only assistant with whom the girl could talk about past life. In a moment, she stopped stroking him and said that someone had made her dreams. The assistant almost broke out of place and began to look at thinking that it was hell, but the girl said it was a common world. Chaco immediately wondered what such a creature dared to join in the dreams of a demon, and that it was not necessary to do it. So I understood what he will need to find the offender. The girl also said that the assistant would look more about this world. The creature wondered why, because the lady promised that she would not restrict herself to never hurt. However, the assistant saw that when the lady did not call him for 20 years, she allowed her to treat her horrifyingly and did not understand why. But Asya replied that she was not mind. The assistant did not like that the lady was constantly suffering, but always saved everyone. The girl smiled at it and thought about herself that her puppy suffered instead. But this time, everything was fine. The longer she lived, you could have betrayed her more often, but she made herself aware that she could suffer a little to protect her life. However, this time she was a family, which was good for her for any reason, and she was curious about what price would be in all these 11 months of carefree life, because she wanted to pay off. Turning to the assistant, the girl assured that this time she was really well with her, but Choco said that the lady had previously said that Asya allowed him to be near to defend her. Hearing this assistant, he quickly rejoiced, and quickly flew out of the room to fulfill his job, promising that he would try hard for the good lady. The girl looked at him. According to the information provided by the assistant, in this world 1 empire and 2 kingdoms. In addition to the main kingdom, where the main is the Pope, there were other small and great kingdoms. For the girl, it was already a familiar form of the world where people used magic and sacred power, but her abilities were somewhat different. Her family lived in the kingdom of the Mahjans, where both sacred and magical power were accepted. Probably that is in the duchy a magic tower stood. However, she understood that the empire sought for head. This is why they need a Tula and a tower here, but Asya was sure that it was not the only secret. It was restless. Choco apologized that he was not doing well. She understood that the assistant tried, but he failed to get more information. In addition, her strength was now limited to the kingdom, so there was nothing to do. But now she did not want to think about it because, as her mother said, it was not necessary to hurry, and in recent months the girl and so tried to grow strongly. Everyone was only happy about her success, except for her mother, who asked her daughter where she was so in a hurry. The Duchess only wanted the daughter to grow healthy and always remain her baby. Therefore, Anastasia realized that she had nothing to worry about her mother, The words of the mother peeled the girl to the soul, and nothing happened in the last couple of months, so she wanted to think that everything would continue to be fine. Considering her Mrs. Chaco, he was even more pleased and admired her. In addition, it gave him more power to understand that he was so useful for the lady. The girl laughed when the assistant climbed on the head of the servant, but she did not see him, so she thought that the little duchess laughed at her feeding skills. When the girl ordered the assistant to check everything, she realized that no one saw him anymore. Even the magicians could not notice the creature. However, when she played in the garden, Michael approached her and asked if the girl had a new friend. Asia was amazed that the boy saw her assistant, but said it was only a toy. She did not understand why even magicians could not see her assistant, and the son of the Duke could. Noticing that the boy wanted to touch Choco, that he would now look strange in the eyes of others. The girl stopped him and said that he was stuck. The boy stopped and not touched her assistant and remembered that the baby loved toys only donated by her brother. On this, the boy decided that the toy was not in her taste. It struck the assistant, but he could not move. Michael also asked if she liked a yellow dress. She was surprised. He also asked her or she liked the ruby and immediately said that they liked because they were like her eyes. The girl did not say anything to it because she was sure that in this case the boy would even start to stick. Leventis ignoring Asi was unpleasant. However, the boy was not going to retreat so easily and struck her with questions to find out what was still liked the little duchess. The girl of his talkativeness has already begun to annoy. She looked at her assistant in doubting the information he brought about the boy because according to him, Michael was a famous silence. Only here, everything was different. She also learned some information about him, namely that the boy really went in 6 months, but he did not even miss his mother and father. All the doctors said that the couple did not worry. This girl realized that her family was not strange. Fortunately, after a while, the boy still managed to speak. Then even rumored that the Duke's family almost caught a heart attack from such a long sentence. After that, the boy was nicknamed a child who did not say something extra, but after a couple of years after the death of his parents, he began to speak even less than usual. After that, he began to be sent to them in the support under the training for the air. Therefore, among loving adults and his peers, he finally managed to feel a real child. However, Anastasia seemed strange that Michael did not come in contact with her older sister, although Laurasia was very good and easily came into contact. However, when he visited them, the boy only greeted with her every time, but not more. Even Chaco could not get the information you need. However, the girl could not understand everything if the boy was so silent. Then why did he talk to her so much? Suddenly he called her, and when she returned, said that today she wanted the girl to call him a cool, and showed him her smile. Asya realized that he asked for her help, and it was true because the boy could not think of giving her for her birthday, which was about to come. The girl was surprised for a moment, hearing about her birthday, but quickly calculated that she had passed almost a year after her birth in this family. Because of this, she was upset, because time ran too quickly and realized that her curse was not to live up to 20. A servant was distracted by a servant from cheerful thoughts, who came to the Duke and the Duchess to the table because it was time for the snack. The maid asked if Lara did not come to them. The children denied, and Asya thought it was strange because she asked her to come. Meanwhile, the sister was hiding behind a tree. When the servant asked the girl to bring the son of the Duke and her younger sister for lunch, she came to see the boy smiling, talking to Anastasia. She remembered everything as the boy never smiled at her and tried to get away from her as soon as possible, no matter how friendly with him. The girl, when dating, said that he called her Lara, but he only spoke coldly to her, calling her full name, then turned and walked. When human emotions and experiences accumulate, they will become more and more every day. There is a clear morning of June 3rd. It was on this day, a year ago, that the girl began her life. Now she was a little restless, and it was surprised that even she could feel it. She looked at her reflection while the maids were sorely worried about her. Today was her birthday, and the girl tried to remember when he was so celebrated. She was never greeted, because every year it just resulted in a certain term, and the more difficult it was, you felt stronger. However, this time everything was felt different. She felt a little pleasant joy, not burning bitterness, as if the long-forgotten feelings began to revive. The girl was enough for the family to just say, "I congratulate," but did not expect her mom to show her a whole hanger of new dresses sewn for her. She did not even know what to deny it, and her mother sat beside her and said that the ceremony was very important today. The kid did not understand that the woman meant. Taking one of the dresses, my mother said that the choice of dress would show the future partner of the girl, and it can be both a man and a colleague or just a friend. Mom said she first chose a pink dress for an emerald. Having thought of the girl, immediately realized that she looked like her father. The Duchess was amazed by the daughter's assignment. On this, the woman again showed the girl a set of dresses and assured that her choice would definitely give her daughter in the future reliable partner. Looking at one by one dress, the girl thought that if she had heard something in her past life, she would not believe it because she realized that she could not have such luck. Turning to the dress, the girl thought that after the mother told about it, there was some hope for some reason, though it would happen shortly, but believed that there was nothing wrong with hope. Taking one of the dresses, the girl was surprised because at first she thought it was white, but depending on the light, the thing changed color and was decorated with different stones. The dress seemed to her gap, but at the same time she glowed in different colors. In the end, the girl realized what her mother's soul really wanted. The girl decided that her mother wanted to have many reliable partners in the future. Anastasia leaned and breathed the smell of the dress, which turned out to be very sweet. Perhaps for 100 lives, she could no longer want to hope, and now realized that this time her mother did it instead. 12 months flew unnoticed, and during this time the girl was ready for anything, especially after a party in honor of the first Aga. However, looking around realized that she was not so ready. In front of her, she saw an ice figure that held a huge ruby and realized in surprise that she was herself. The girl thought that the family had already gone beyond her understanding, but she became interested in where they came from this ruby. Suddenly, Michael appeared next to her and greeted her. The girl immediately turned around and decided to look at something else, and without answering the boy. She came to the table and saw a huge cake. She has never had so many beautiful things. Suddenly behind the girl called his father and called to approach them. Anastasia immediately ran up, and the Duke grabbed her daughter in his hands on her birthday. The servants and knights also greeted the girl immediately and wanted to continue to serve and defend the little lady. The girl approached the girl and asked whether Asya herself chose a dress for herself, and immediately said that a little duchess could be sure that reliable people will always be reliable with her. The girl thought that after such a servant would probably receive bonuses from her father, but thinking that she could have been different this time. All servants brought love to the Duke's house and tried hard for this holiday. Now Asya understood it. She saw that only good people were circumfection. Without holding back her sincere emotions, the girl smiled, and how she could express her gratitude for the greeting. In this life, her first birthday was only filled with the best, from delicious fruits to music that was heard from everywhere. She was also constantly delivered by various gifts from the aristocrats. Suddenly, she was a little squeezed because she thought that this holiday would only be for her relatives. But again, everything was different, and she even expressed a desire to hide somewhere. From the thoughts, the father who invited the birthday girl to the dance. The girl did not mind, but did not understand how at that age she had to dance. However, she still took her father's hands and led her to a huge hall. The musicians began to play, and the tune was heard almost a whole palace. The Duke sat in front of her knee, and the girl immediately remembered that the dance needed visual contact. It was a little closed by Anastasia. Suddenly, her father picked up the girl in her arms, and she slightly swayed from unexpectedness. The father began to praise his daughter, but did not understand why, because only they hung in his hands. In this, the rest of the relatives also expressed a desire to dance with the birthday girl. The Duke's wife, laughing, extended her hand to one of the knights, speaking that once her husband did not want to dance with her, then let her do another. After that, the older brother and sister, taking the birthday girl, immediately twisted her in a cheerful dance. Demian told his sister to be careful because Asya was still young. After the tune ended and the music began to play the next one, and Laurasia recalled the hand of her sister that she danced for this music last year. Asya was amazed by his sister's endurance. However, almost immediately, Michael appeared nearby, and without letting the girl a little rest. Asya has exhausted it, but still accepted the proposal to dance. Holding her hands with Leventis, the girl noticed how her relatives also danced. Everyone had a wonderful sodium, and Asya in passing and smiled. The girl's smile did not hide from the boy, and he wished her in the dance to dance the little duchess as her smile. For herself, the girl realized that the son of the Duke is unlikely to once recognize the defeat, but now his annoyance annoyed her less, so much that she danced with him now as a family member. The party in honor of her birthday ended at noon, but her parents allowed the servants to celebrate before late evening. Because of this, they spent time together in the evening. It has passed all year long, and Anastasia was still difficult to get used to warm family comfort, but she still decided to enjoy these warm days. Today, the Duke himself was offset by his younger daughter to sleep. The girl almost immediately began to fall asleep in her father's hands. However, she tried not to do so because she realized that as soon as she fell asleep, something bad could happen. And she was not mistaken, because almost after she closed her eyes, she got into this strange dream in which she was expected to be an unknown guest. The unwanted guest in her dream greeted, but the girl did not give anything to it, which caused a feeling of disdain for a stranger, and he said about it, asking whether Asya did not want to see him. The girl was tired of these games and directly asked who was a stranger. The child pretended to be disappointed that she was not recognized, and in a moment changed the image, becoming an adult. The girl was amazed that a stranger could easily change the image even in the subconscious, and nevertheless, she could not remember him. In order to help her, a stranger also made her grow up. Anastasia asked where the stranger knew her image, and he replied, that could easily embody her body from her past life. He recalled again that he was the only one who understood her. Almost immediately, a stranger apologized for anxiety and said he would look forward to her next time, after she finds him herself. The girl did not have time to do anything. As a light wave of the hand, the stranger turned her back to the world, having felt unpleasant. The girl realized that this time the dream was only one night. She could not get involved or really called her by name. It is the first name in her first life.